What is it that makes good deeds and charity fruitful? He says. Look, our Sheikh explained in his talk, he says, was it a hadith? Let's convey it as a hadith. He says, from my ummah, that is from the companions, if a person gives half a handful of barley in the way of Allah the Almighty as charity, that is, if he gives it to those in need, if he spends it in the way of Allah. In other words, if he gives half a handful of barley as charity, he says, and if from my ummah in the end times someone gives a truckload of gold as charity in the way of Allah the Almighty, he, the Prophet, peace be upon him, says that in the sight of Allah the Almighty, even a small portion, such as half a handful of good deeds done by one of my companions, carries far more weight and value than that massive overflowing truckload of pure gold given in the end times. Its reward is even greater. Is this truly a phenomenon that can be measured by the scale of logic and rational thought? What couldn't be done with a truckload of gold? What good deeds couldn't be accomplished with it? And on top of that, we'd have our name written on it, right? Tolunay Ustun said so in his talk last night about the beverage, as he put it. Isn't that how it is? Charitable works, a fountain. So many good deeds could be accomplished. But in the sight of Allah the Almighty, he says, what that companion did is more virtuous. Its reward is even greater. How is that possible? What is the state and condition of your heart? That's what determines it. Your sincerity there. It's not a matter of barley or gold. The sincerity of your heart determines its rank. It determines how much reward you will get. His mercy is vast. For a single action you did, for a good deed, He gave you 700,000 rewards. As I said, is there anyone who can question Allah the Almighty? Oh Lord, what kind of accounting is this? Is there anyone who can say, how can one become 700? One becomes 2. He gave, and still there is no one to question Him. It is your heart state that determines whether that 2 or that 700,000 will be given. If you perform that prayer just like this person, saying, I'm fasting with your mouth, that's how you do it. You know, there was a person who used to pray like that too. While he was praying, he says, the door of the mosque, the door opened and closed from behind once. Now he said, probably someone else just came in to the mosque. Let me pay attention. Let me perform my prayer properly. That's what he says. The door opened and closed from behind. Someone else came in, you know. He thinks that person is watching him pray now. That's how he feels. How did he pray like that? Very, very carefully and thoroughly. But if he turned around after finishing his prayer and looked, he would see, excuse me for saying this, but it was just a stray dog from the street. It was cold outside. It came in and curled up on top of the mosque's shoes, he says. It came, curled up, and is lying there. So, who did you perform your prayer for? That's how we are, really. When you stood for prayer, what was it for? What intention did you make? Brother, from your own mouth. I intended, O Lord, for your pleasure. So what happened now? You said you came there for the sake of God's pleasure. You stood there for that. Unfortunately.